Got you.
Right now on the National Weather Desk, mighty Milton, the powerful hurricane is now packing 120-mile-per-hour winds and is heading straight to Florida.
Little pinhole eye, that's indicative of extreme intensification.
Why this storm could be especially devastating for the Gulf Coast.
The largest evacuation that we have seen, most likely since 2017 Hurricane Irma.
All this as the cleanup from Helene is still going on.
Front half of this house was taken out by the power of this mudslide.
The Earth's so-called second moon has arrived.
PT number 5 will continue to be up in the sky until 11:25.
And this year's weather is making for great grapes in southern New England.
They say the much drier than average September will make these grapes riper and better tasting.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Janae Bowens. 3 days ago, it was a disturbance with just a 40% chance of development. Right now, Hurricane Milton is a major Category 3 storm and is expected to continue strengthening before making landfall along Florida's Gulf Coast late Wednesday or early Thursday. The storm surge and wind damage could be catastrophic. Meteorologist Avery Tomasco is tracking Milton for us this morning.
All right, latest on Hurricane Milton on a vertical climb for intensity as it is explosively intensifying in the Gulf of Mexico. A little pinhole eye, that's indicative of extreme intensification. And just like that, from a Category 1 hurricane earlier this morning to now a major 120-mile-per-hour Category 3 storm. And it still has so much warm water to tap into. Sea surface temperatures in the 80s means at least a Category 4 storm. Right here, northwest of Cuba, this could be easily a Category 5 storm, though. The only good news is that on final approach, it's going to weaken just a little bit, but notice how much bigger it gets, the eye of the hurricane especially. That's going to exacerbate and increase the wind field, which means the storm surge will likely be just as bad or even much worse than what happened with Helene not too long ago, which led to a lot of damage in Tampa Bay. They could be looking at 10 to 15 feet of storm surge.
Now, Tampa has not taken a direct hit from a hurricane in more than 100 years. The area is incredibly vulnerable to storm surge. More than 3 million people live on or near Tampa Bay, which could easily spill into the city. The Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council ran a hurricane simulation called Project Phoenix a few years ago and found a Category 5 hurricane would have devastating and long-term impact on the entire region. Residents in Florida are starting what could be its largest evacuation effort since 2017. The ground is already saturated from Helene and rain that's falling today. Amy Kiley has a closer look at how Florida is getting ready and the threat of a storm surge.
I have the state emergency response team preparing for the largest evacuation that we have seen, most likely since 2017 Hurricane Irma.
Floridians are bracing for the second major hurricane in less than 2 weeks. Officials are issuing both mandatory and voluntary evacuation orders for at-risk areas.
I urge Floridians to finalize your storm preparations now, enact your plan. I highly encourage you to evacuate.
The National Hurricane Center warns flooding could threaten millions of residents. Some are preparing with sandbags.
We got kind of damaged Hurricane Ian, so just make sure that we get a little bit more precautious, making sure all the sandbags are at our doorstep garage.
I think we're just going to put sandbags in our back porch. We're going to get like groceries later and stuff in case it's really bad.
Milton's timing could be dangerous. In some areas, the ground is already saturated from Hurricane Helene, and cleanup from that storm continues.
One of the things that we did was make sure that all disaster debris management sites that were impacted by Hurricane Helene, that they remain open 24/7 for drop-off.
Milton is one of 3 hurricanes in the Atlantic basin right now, joining Leslie and Kirk. It's the first time in recorded history that there have been 3 active hurricanes here in the month of October. Neither Leslie nor Kirk is a threat to the U.S., but Kirk is heading towards Europe. It's expected to be a tropical storm when it skirts Spain's northern coast and hit France's west coast on Wednesday. Now, there's still plenty of work to do in states impacted by Hurricane Helene. At least 227 deaths are now blamed on the storm. It's unclear this morning exactly how many people are still missing. About 250,000 homes and businesses are still without power. We have 2 reports on the damage and recovery efforts, starting in Butler, Tennessee.
Broken bridges, washed out roads, and damaged houses. This is what the Butler community in Carter County is facing after the severe floods.
I've seen floods, but nothing like this.
In Butler, there is currently no cell phone service or power, so residents rely on generators.
It's probably going to take better than a month just to get power back on some of the residents here, and like the bridges, we're probably looking at years. Our fire station, it's a total loss. It took it completely off the foundation, and we had 1 tanker left in it. We also lost it.
What you're seeing behind me is what's left of a bridge that used to go into the Pogie community in Carter County. And the videos that you've been seeing of the destruction don't do it justice, but community members say that they're hopeful for the future.
We've got a lot to do and got a long ways to go, but we're going to get there.
We are seeing the devastating effects of a mudslide. I want to point you to this house here. First of all, the garage completely taken out, at least one wall over there, and then the garage door, what would have been, just not there anymore. And then you don't see any cars there, and that's because, well, the pickup truck that this family owned really got pushed by the power of this mudslide into their living room. And you can just see how much debris is even on that truck right now. You look a little further down and the family's fall decorations by their door completely encased by the mud and destroyed there. The whole wall and front half of this house was taken out by the power of this mudslide.
Now, one of the reasons that Helene was so devastating for some communities was due to rainfall that happened ahead of the storm, just like Florida is experiencing today. Meteorologist Kit Alexander explains.
Predecessor rainfall events. This is a term that meteorologists use to indicate a storm system that has massive impacts when it comes to rainfall and flooding. A stalled out front near the southern Appalachians and an area of low pressure led to torrential amounts of rain and additional rain when Helene arrived. This was also true of a storm system that hit the southern Appalachians back in November of 1977. According to the National Weather Service in Morristown, the preceding rain before Helene was one of the main contributing factors in the devastation in our region. Any rain that falls in the western North Carolina basin ultimately comes into East Tennessee. National Weather Service meteorologist Anthony Cavalucci had this to say about Helene and the preceding rain.
One of the biggest factors was that we had precipitation that started much earlier in the week. Helene wasn't due to come through. We didn't know exactly where it was coming, but we knew that there was a lot of precipitation before the actual tropical system moved our way. So that was probably the big factors. And then we had wind damage on top of that, power outages, and people are still dealing with that today.
Turning our attention now to the fall foliage, more places across the country are now reaching peak colors. Meteorologist Jordan Evans has the rundown from coast to coast.
We're now into the middle of October, and current fall color continues to expand across the United States. We are past peak now in the higher terrain of Colorado, parts of Utah, the Rocky Mountains there just outside of Denver, but we're still expanding across most of Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada. The high Sierras also just past peak. Farther to the north, we're past peak a lot across Yellowstone, parts of Montana, Idaho, the higher terrain and those states, but lower elevation still getting closer to peak at this time. Upper Midwest approaching peak, places like Duluth, Minnesota to Minneapolis. Still little foliage across most of the plains into the Ohio River Valley. We're now at peak across northern New England from Burlington to New Hampshire, Maine, and closer to peak now for places like West Virginia. And we're getting started right here in the nation's capital along 95 up toward Boston. For the National Weather Desk, I'm meteorologist Jordan Evans.
There was another geomagnetic storm over this weekend, and it resulted in some pretty great shots of the northern lights. These are from viewers in Wisconsin, but forecasters said the lights could have been seen as far south as Virginia. Some other celestial events to look forward to this month are the Draconid meteor shower, the Hunter's moon, and the Orionid meteor shower. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll look at how drought could impact fall foliage in Ohio. And we'll head to Rhode Island to find out why the weather is making for great grapes this year.
I'm meteorologist Ryan Munn. As we get a look at the Northeast through the day on Monday, we're going to see lots of clouds off towards areas in eastern New England with some rain as a cold front is passing through. We're looking at rain for areas like Connecticut, Massachusetts, over towards Vermont, New Hampshire, as well as Maine through the day on Monday. Some scattered showers possible off towards the west as well, but the sunshine is replaced as we head through the afternoon. Tuesday's looking nice as well. The high temperatures are running in the 60s for most.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Jabali. Here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. A front passed through the area as we moved across this morning, so we are going to see nothing but drier conditions and nicer conditions to come. It is going to be beautiful in the next several days with little to no chance of rainfall, but that's going to mean spectacular weather, low humidity. Highs will only be in the 70s for your Monday afternoon. We'll get some chilly overnights and even only right around the upper 60s, low 70s for your Tuesday afternoon.
I'm meteorologist Vitas Reed. Here's a look at your southeast forecast highs as we're seeing temperatures in the 70s in Nashville, 86 in Birmingham, 85 Raleigh, 90 in Mobile. Some clouds and rain over South Florida ahead of a tropical system. We're looking at hurricane that's going to move across the Gulf, looking at it becoming a Category 4 as we get through the next few days, and it could make landfall near the Tampa Bay region or near the Big Bend region as we get towards Wednesday afternoon, evening. This is going to be a major storm once again for western Florida.
Milton is now a major Category 4 storm with top winds of 150 miles per hour. Today's rapid intensification has been remarkable. A doctor in St. Petersburg, Florida, isn't just a medical expert. She's become an expert on home renovations. Her house has flooded multiple times from hurricanes, and now she's sharing those tips online. Chad Mills has the story.
All right, flood friends, let's talk about your wet drywall.
From medical doctor to house doctor?
You are going to want to cut it out, and you want to cut at least up 18 inches above your flood line.
Meet Megan Martin, a local doctor yet again going viral on TikTok.
I guarantee you your kids will get sick at the least convenient times.
Her health tips have gone viral in the past, and so did her quintessentially Florida commute to work after Debbie. But this time,
your house just flooded, mine too. You're feeling overwhelmed and you don't know where to start or what to do.
She's going viral for sharing tips on a topic she's unfortunately familiar with: what to do after your home floods.
Before you touch or move anything in the house, take pictures and videos, lots of them.
Her Shore Acres home in St. Pete flooded after Ada, Idalia, and now Helene.
We got around 4 feet. This was by far the worst. We haven't seen anything like this in the past.
Her recent TikToks explore topics like drywall removal, mold prevention, how to document your damage, and protect yourself and others.
You can protect unsuspecting Facebook Marketplace buyers by destroying your stuff because the pickers are going to take it and put it online to sell to other people.
No-brainers to some, but not all, after Helene flooded homes that have never flooded before.
The videos are getting lots of views. The comments are very positive and helpful, and it looks like a lot of people are sending it off to other people that have experienced the flooding.
Whether in the ER or on TikTok, Dr. Martin just wants to help.
Turning to southern New England, where the weather has been great for wine grapes, meteorologist Nick Rousseau reports.
At Secaunet Vineyard in Little Compton, harvest time begins in September and can run into November. According to head winemaker James Davids, the weather so far this year could not be much better for growing grapes.
It's been a wonderful season. We had a really mellow, not too much, no big storms or hail or anything like that.
Here at Secaunet Vineyards, they say the much drier than average September will make these grapes riper and better tasting.
In this climate, it can be so wet and humid that, when the soil is full of water and you have a lot of cloudy days, you don't get as much ripeness in the grapes. And so a nice long dry climate is something a little bit more similar to parts of France or California or other regions that we're typically drinking wine from.
But there's more happening here than one good growing season. Over the nearly 50-year history of Secaunet, the growers have seen a trend that favors winemaking.
Are you noticing a change with climate change with your grapes?
Yeah, definitely. Certainly I think the biggest one is the mild winters. You have a lot less decline over winter from frost and other problems like hurting the grapevines.
A longer growing season in the fall also allows Secaunet Vineyard more flexibility to plan when they will harvest without having to race against old man winter.
The grapes just get to hang on the vine and, just ripen a little bit longer.
Once we get like snow or, frozen conditions, the grapes can actually freeze and rupture and split. And so we have to get the grapes off the vine before that happens.
Portions of Ohio are still dealing with extreme drought, with some areas reaching the exceptional level. But that hasn't stopped people from coming to see the changing leaves in the area. Nick Veland has more.
Step by step, adventure awaits at the Hocking Hills.
The caves and just being out, being part of nature.
Susie Farrell and her pickleball friends traveled from Indiana. The lack of rain didn't scare them off.
We've got backup plans. We'll be fine no matter what.
So they hit the road to explore. And those with the Hocking Hills Tourism Association haven't seen an impact and doesn't expect any impacts come fall.
People are going to come here anyway. The drought is not going to be a problem.
People like Susie's group who say even if the drought impacted their stay, they'd still be happy to be there.
Fun to be here. We have a beautiful place where we're staying, and if we never left there, we'd probably have a good time.
Hocking Hills says the fall is their busiest season. They expect the leaves to still change to their fall colors, which attracts most of the attention.
I have never seen such a dramatic change in colours that you see around here. And of course, I absolutely love it because I'm just not used to it. I come from London.
Now, more than 3 million trees across Alabama have been affected by southern pine beetles. And while the loss of so many trees can create many issues, the biggest concern is public safety. Gracie Johnson has more.
Over 3 million trees across the state of Alabama have been affected this year by southern pine beetles. The Alabama Forestry Commission tells me it's the worst it's seen in 24 years.
This year we've documented over 10,200 southern pine beetle spots. In typical years, we would normally see probably anywhere from 100 to 300 spots.
These numbers equate to an estimated 3.5 million tons of dead wood on the landscape. A Tuscaloosa County woman is seeing the impact in her front yard.
This past Friday, when I walked outside, the tree limb, as you can see, it just fell.
Drew Metzler with the Alabama Forestry Commission told me signs to look out for in infested trees.
One of the earliest signs of infestation is pitch tubes that occur on the main bole of the tree or the main trunk.
As the trees become more infested, he said you may notice yellowing of the needles and the trees turning brown.
Eventually they do fall down and are decomposed over a period of time.
One of the biggest concerns, safety.
It may hurt someone or me, so that's a big concern.
Metzler said there are insecticides and pheromone deterrents that homeowners can use to protect their trees from growing pine beetle infestations.
Earth has an extra visitor in its orbit, referred to as a mini-moon. Meteorologist AJ Mastrangelo explains why this asteroid is tagging along.
Unfortunately, not going to be able to see this with your naked eye, and the last time we actually had a mini-moon here on Earth was back in 2020. That one turned out to be space junk. This one is likely composed of natural elements, as astronomers have conferred. Let's talk about this 2024 PT5. That's the name of the asteroid, discovered by researchers in South Africa back on August 7th. Asteroid itself, it's roughly 33 feet wide, so roughly the size of a school bus. It's going to be held in Earth's orbit for 56 days. And we're already starting that countdown there as we are now into the orbit itself. The horseshoe path, though, raises questions. We'll talk more about that coming up in just a little bit. But here is the moon and here is Earth. As we know, the moon orbits and revolves around Earth, and it completes that complete orbit. But a little bit of a different story with PT5. It'll be having a different trajectory. As you can see here, this white line here, this is what has already occurred and actually officially became in orbit back on 9/29. It's in orbit right now. It's kind of right in this red area. And as you can see, it's only really in orbit for more of a horseshoe formation. So scientists are split whether or not this is officially a mini-moon because it won't be completing that full orbit. Believe it or not, PT number 5 will continue to be up in the sky until 1125 and actually will be making a return here to the skies of Earth coming up in 2055.
And time now for a short break, but first we take in views of changing leaves in Utah.
Good Monday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael. Staying dry for most of the Midwest over the next several days here. High pressure is going to give us a lot of sunshine with highs in the 60s and 70s all across the region for the day today. Tomorrow, we start warming up a little bit more, especially out to the west. We got some 80s sneaking their way back in. And by the time that we get to your Wednesday, the 80s continuing to spread as temperatures slowly warm up as we head towards the middle of the week.
I'm meteorologist Joe DiCarlo. Look at your forecast across the region on this Monday. Well, Hurricane Milton way to the south, moisture moving southeastward with it, and we are left with dry conditions across the region. Lots of sunshine. We're in the 80s and 90s this afternoon. As we head into your Tuesday, cooler 50s and 60s for many in the morning, but 80s and 90s again for the afternoon with a lot of sunshine.
Well, hi there, everybody, and a good Monday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Lots of warmth out west, but at least San Francisco is cooling down after hitting the triple digits around the Bay Area over the weekend, back down to 76 near the Golden Gate Bridge today. 80s out of Salt Lake and Albuquerque. Beautiful, almost summer-like weather back in the Pacific Northwest with 70s and 80s in Seattle and Portland. High pressure in charge out west. And that's the scene from here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Have you noticed that some bodies of water are bluer than others? There's a reason for this. Meteorologist Matt Monroe explains.
I want to talk for a second here about beautiful Lake Tahoe, right on the borderline of California and Nevada. It's about 22 miles long. It's about 12 miles wide. It is the second deepest lake in the country. It's 1,645 feet deep. But look at how incredibly blue that water is. That's incredible stuff right there. By the way, it's taken from way up high at Heavenly Mountain Ski Resort, about 3,000 feet above the actual surface of the lake. So that water is 99.99% pure. When you have pure water like that, it tends to actually refract the shorter wavelengths of light, the blue and the violet, back to your eye. Also, because it's so pure, there's almost no algae in this lake, especially in the summertime when the nutrients are at its lowest. That makes it even bluer. So summertime is the bluest time of the year out across Lake Tahoe. There it is. One more time. Lovely Lake Tahoe right there in the borderline of California and Nevada. If you've never been, you got to check it out.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Janae Bowens. Make it a great Monday, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow.